So guys, the grind is for real. Yesterday I was out for about 4 hours and nothing. Tossing big baits is not for the faint of heart. If you're a guy who can't stand going out and getting skunked, then this definitely isn't going to be for you. So I'm not trying to catch every fish. I'm trying to catch the biggest fish in the pond or the biggest fish in the lake. Like, I'm not trying to just get a 1, 2, 3 pounder. Like, I'm looking to get a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus pounder. With that being said, you're going to go out a lot of days and you're not going to catch a thing. And it can be really discouraging, but when you do get that one big bite, it's so worth it. So guys, be persistent. Keep tossing big baits. Be patient. When you get that bite, make the most of it. It's going to be a big fish. All right, so make sure you do that. Time to eat some breakfast.
So I was going to go fishing today, but it's 45 degrees and rainy here, and that's not happening. Any other day that it's raining, I typically just put on some rain gear and go, but it is cold. So I figured I'd do a video and show you guys like how to start swim baiting or how to start getting into big baits, just like I did. So swim baiting is not for everybody. One, it costs quite a bit of money to get into, which is unfortunate because you get these bigger baits which range from $10 to $500. It is crazy. There are some really big baits out there, and some of them are amazing and hand carved, and there's a lot of time and energy put into them, and super expensive and way past my budget. But for all of you, if you're just getting started and you want to try using big baits and trying to catch really big bass, I'm going to help you guys out with that and show you what I started with that didn't break the bank and I was able to do right away. One thing I want to talk about in the next video before I get into the lures is the right gear to actually use, because you can't just typically go out with your normal bass gear and use these baits. You have to buy some specific setups for them. But I'll talk about that in my next video, and let's dig into the lures here. So one of my favorites, and one that I actually use today and will continue to use, and it's a cheap bait, you can get it for $10 on Amazon, is the Savage Gear Line Through Trout. And this is the 8-inch, and this bait gets bit. Like, it doesn't matter what size the bass is. I was out fishing with a friend yesterday, and he actually caught a fish that was not even the size of this lure. And they still attack it. Bass, it's just in their nature to attack. And I don't know what the thing was thinking, because it would have died if it actually ate this thing. But this thing gets bit straight up, and I will still use it today, whether it's a 1-pounder or 2-pounder, 3-pounder, 4-pounder. My biggest last year on this was a 413, and I tell you what, you may look at this bait and think that it's a big bait, but this bait was like this in the fish's mouth, in the back of its throat. So guys, this is a cheap bait. It's an awesome bait. The swimming motion is great. You can check them out on YouTube and buy them for about $10 on Amazon, and the thing catches fish. Check it out. I don't know what I did with my 6-inch. The Spro BBZ Junior 6-inch gets bit. Okay, this is the 8-inch version of that, but the 6-inch version, I've caught 1-pounders, 2-pounders, 3-pounders. I think my biggest on that was a 6-pounder. But you can toss that in any pond and it will catch fish. Okay, so if you're just really uncertain about this whole swim baiting thing and you're like, oh, I don't know about it, try the 6-inch. It'll cost you 20 bucks and it will catch you fish. Okay, it'll build up your confidence in swim baits, and then you want to step out and get the bigger versions, the 8-inch, and then move on from there. Okay, one of my favorites. This is the Huddleston Deluxe, or the Huddleston 68 Special. This is a 6-inch swim bait, but it's got an 8-inch tail on it. So they do the Huddleston 6-inch and the Huddleston 8-inch, and what they did was a hybrid. They did the 6-inch with an 8-inch tail, and it's got a lot wider thump to it. Okay, and this thing straight up catches fish, and it will also catch your 2s, your 3s, your 4s, your 5s, your 6s, and so forth. So when you're using bigger baits, guys, it's not like you're gonna get skunked every time, even though that's a possibility, but you'll still catch fish that are hungry regardless of the size on them. Now, if you want to start singling out the bigger fish, which is typically what I do, I want to target big fish. This will catch smaller fish, but my bigger bites come on this. This is the Huddleston 8-inch. Last year I lost one of my biggest fish on this. I caught a 6'3" on this lure right here. But I lost, and of course I'm throwing it out there, and it was a monster fish because I know this pond has 7s and 8s in it because I've seen them, seen the pictures. I'm pretty sure it was a 7-pounder. I was dragging it over some rocks, thumping it along. I pause it and it gets hammered. I set the hook. He jumps once and is still on. Jumps again and tosses the bait. And
Oh
it
my
was so
gosh.
frustrating. Okay, but if you want to single out big bass, the Huddleston 8-inch, I will fish this all year round. If it's super hot, I'm going to fish this really super slow. If it's super cold, I'm still going to fish it super slow. But you can also retrieve it pretty fast, and it's going to catch fish. However, you're not going to get bit every single time you go out. Okay, I would say it was probably once every 4 or 5 times when tossing this thing that I went out that I would actually get bit. However, 5s and 6s are what I would catch, or was what I was catching on this bait. All right. Now, there's these types of baits called glide baits that I've become a huge fan of in the swim bait world, and this is one of them. In one of my videos, you'll see me catch my biggest of the year and my biggest in general, which is a 612. Okay, this is the S-Waver 200, and there's a group on YouTube called Tactical Bassin. If you want to check them out, they're from out west, and they use these, and they kind of got them pretty popular, and I started using them. And in that video that you see me catch my biggest, it's amazing. It just has a beautiful glide back and forth, and that's what these glide baits do, obviously, is they glide in the water. Back and forth, and these things have what you call draw power. And there's videos on YouTube about the draw power that these have. Is a fish will travel to check this thing out. And it may or may not bite your lure, but it'll travel to check out this lure. Okay? And so I saw that fish following that lure from about 20 feet, and it gets up close, and when I paused it, just hammered it. And it was an amazing sight to see. But the draw power of these lures is amazing. That lure will run you about $35. You can get it on eBay for about $32, I believe, with shipping, $35. So, starting to get more expensive, okay? $35 for that lure. This next lure I'm about to show you is one that I absolutely love, but I don't love the price because it is expensive, and I always have a hard time throwing these things unless I'm on a boat, and that is the Depths 250. Okay, this is a 10-inch bait, and the glide on this thing is amazing. I caught 3s and 4s last year on this thing, and I'm expecting my 10-pounder hopefully to come on this thing this year. Or my real goal is actually a 7 or an 8, and I think that this is the bait that's going to do it. Or the 8-inch Huddleston, or the S-Waver 200. I think that this bait in particular, though, is going to be the one that draws in that big fish. But it's really hard to throw it from shore, because if you get caught out in the middle of a pond, good luck getting it, all right? And so I'm probably not going to toss this bait until I'm actually on a boat, and that way if it gets stuck or whatever, I can go get it. But retail, that thing's about $170. Okay, retail. You can get them online if you're to get into some of the forums. You can get them online for cheaper, and that's the newer version. They have a newer version. They have an older version, the original. Whew. The originals go for a lot more than that even. So, guys, swim baiting can get expensive, and this is just a group of swim baits that I use. I literally just use those 5. There's a lot of guys on in the swim bait realm that they will spend a lot of money doing this thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's some amazing baits. A lot of them are handmade, and a lot of work is put into them, and people will spend hundreds on them, and they'll catch a big bass on them. I'm not quite there yet to that point where I can spend $200-300 on a lure. And maybe someday I will, but what I have for right now, they all catch big bass. They draw in big fish. Okay, so you don't have to spend a ton of money to catch bigger fish. And you'll catch bigger fish with regular lures, don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying that at all. But from what I have experienced over the last 2 years, that when I've tossed these big baits, the bigger bass are more consistent with these bigger baits than what I've caught with just regular gear. So guys, those are the baits I use in a nutshell, and I typically just stick to all those baits. And there's a lot of videos online on what baits to use at what time of the year, whether it's cold, whether it's hot. What I found though is that a majority of them work all year round. You just got to find what the bass want. If they want a swim bait, toss a swim bait. If they want a glide bait, toss a glide bait. It's just like with regular fishing. If you're out tournament fishing or if you're out regular fishing, a lot of guys, they'll just stick to what they know and use one lure. Try everything. See what the bass want and use it. Same with swim baiting. If they want a swim bait, use a swim bait. If they want a glide bait, use a glide bait. But use bigger lures that have that draw power that's going to make a 6 or 7 or 8 pounder say, hey, I'm actually interested in what you have to offer. Okay, and it's well worth it. My last thing here is this. With these big bass, or just any bass in general, it can be very easy to overguess the weight or even underguess the weight. Sometimes you'll have a fish that weighs more than it actually does, which is really cool. But a lot of times you'll have a fish that actually weighs a lot less than what you think. Last year I was using this Savage gear in a local pond, and this fish, I was fishing right next to a guy, this fish just inhaled it. Like it was literally in the back of its throat. Had a mouth of about a 7 pounder on it. The mouth on it was huge. And he looks at me, he's like, that's got to be like a 5 pounder. And I said, no, I don't think it is. It's actually kind of small. And he's like, no, it's big. I'm like, well, we'll wait and we'll find out. It was only actually 3.5 pounds. And I told the guy, I'm like, yeah, it's only 3.5 pounds. And he's like, man, I've been lying to my friends all day. I'm like, yes, you would have. You would have been lying to your friends all day. So be truthful, okay? All these guys that are holding up these pictures way out here saying, hey, look how big this fish is. Do you think it's a 5, 6, or 7? And in reality, it's only a 3 pounder. All right, so grab a scale. They're not very expensive. Go to Dick's Sporting Goods. Go to Bass Pro Shop and pick up a scale. So that way you're accurate in your measurements and you're not lying about fish and telling fish stories, okay? So be accurate in what you're doing. So I hope what I went over today helps you all out. Like I said, this isn't for everybody. It can get pretty expensive and it can get discouraging, but my biggest thing is that you're persistent and you're patient. And be used to going out and possibly not catching any fish. And I've caught fish my entire life, and I actually want to start now singling out the bigger fish. So that's what I'm doing. So you guys are on an adventure with me, and hopefully this helps you out. Now go catch a big bass.